Welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have Dave Bainbridge on the show today to talk about his fifth solo album. It is out now. It's called On the Edge. And go to his website. That's, I would say, the best place where you can get it right now. It will be streaming soon. But in the U.S., check it out. You can go to open-sky-records.myshopify.com to go and get it if you're in the U.S., or just go to davebainbridgemusic.com. So welcome to the show, Dave. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yes, yeah. Just a slight correction. It's called On the Edge, but then in brackets of What Could Be.
What could be. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
so
get into that. Yeah. What could
so,
be. And yeah, I
yeah,
think that's the beauty part of the title, because what could be is, I think a lot of us are striving for, but we might be butting heads on that right now. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But
The thinking behind the title was that we're kind of on the edge of a lot of things. I suppose climate change, politics, lots of things seem to be coming to a head. But we could go one way, we could go the other way. With the album, I'm trying to offer a sense of hope to people that we can go the right route on these things. And with music, I think there's always a sense of hope and a sense of that things can be better. And music connects people in ways that the other things divide. So I'm really keen that when people listen to the music, it's a shared experience, and we can kind of forget all our differences and come together in a shared love of just art and beauty.
I think the arts are our savior. I've always said that the arts tell the truth, as everybody's arguing about what's in the news and whether they should believe what's in the news. And I think that the arts tell the truth. Musicians, artists, poets, writers, painters always tell the truth. And they also, are the healers in a way, because we need to have a place to escape for a little bit and also deal with it. So the album is a 2 CD album, and where you've got some spirituality and natural connection with the the natural world. It also seems you got some rock in there. So it's kind of going through our feelings in a way.
Yes, yeah. I come from quite a diverse musical background, I suppose. When I was growing up, I had an older sister who was 9 years older than me, and so when I was 8, I was listening to all her albums, and she had lots of all the Beatles albums and Jimi Hendrix and all kinds of blues and rock albums, Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, and then. But also in my teens, one of my best friends suddenly started buying lots of folk albums and bringing them around to my house. So I was exposed to all this Irish and Scottish folk music. And then since the age of 8, I was playing classical piano. So I've kind of been exposed to lots of different strands of music. And I think that always comes through when I'm writing music, all those different strands, trying to blend them together and make something hopefully unique sounding.
So this album, you've got a lot of amazing musicians and vocalists that are a part of this. When you set out to do it, did you think this is what the world needs now, or did it just kind of channel that way? And then you go, oh, wait, I need this person, I need that person, because you've played with so many iconic people over the years and groups and bands. And one of my favorites, even Buddy Guy, is and he's still going, and he still gets up at 3 or 4 in the morning, like he does, even if he's on tour, and he's on his final tour, I believe, right now. I don't think he'll ever end. But was it like, when you put this together, like how long did it take because this is like a project. This is a big deal, what you put together.
Yeah, it's 83 minutes of music.
Nice.
And lots of multi-layered facets to it. But yeah, whenever I'm working with other musicians, it's not to get names on board. It's really if the music, I hear the music, and then I can kind of hear different people's contribution to it. So that's the way I go about it. And particularly on this album, a few years ago, I met Simon Phillips, the drummer, and we had lots of music mutual friends, in particular Jack Bruce, who we both worked with. And so when I was doing this album, it had always been a kind of goal of mine to work with Simon, just because I love his playing so much and his approach to drums. So yeah, when I was writing the music for this, I really felt that his voice would be perfect for it. So I'd already written some other music, but then when he was on board, I wrote a couple of songs specifically with him in mind. And it's the same with the other musicians and singers. Really, I kind of heard in my head what the album should sound like, and then kind of worked from there really as to who I should get to.
Well, I love the fact that you're using the right people you feel for the project, right? And I think that's important. And that shows that you have a camaraderie with musicians, and you definitely have over the years. And like Jack Bruce, he really is just, he's like an icon. We had his son on the show, Malcolm,
Oh
about
yeah,
a year and a half ago, who we talked more meditation than music. Actually, we talked more about how they were connected. And I kind of think that with your music too, that there's this, you're able to rock out, like, when you look at the work of, like, you look at Simon Phillips, and I
mm,
mean, his dynamics as a drummer is just incredible, and the
yeah,
energy and the
yeah,
effortlessness that goes into it as a drummer is just like amazing. And everyone, there's a great video on YouTube. If you go to Dave Bainbridge on YouTube, Google that. And I'll put a link to this video where it shows like a little clip of how this album was made, this 2-part album. And you'll see the different musicians and just what went into it, and just beautiful scenery. I hope you're going to do some of that scenery that, this natural, just really
yeah,
ancient, feels very ancient and progressive at the same time, which to me is a beauty, because it's like, I think we're at that as humanity, where we need to honor ancestry and then also change the bad stuff. We get to change our DNA. This sounds woo woo and weird, but I think we're at this point of, and that's what I love of what could be,
yeah,
on the edge. I feel like we are. Which
yeah,
way are we going to go? Can we fix the past for a better future? And I think your music does that. And I think it always has, actually. But there's this balance of respecting the ancient times, but we don't have to keep some traditions that are bad, right? We can move into this beautiful world and heal the past. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I think I mean, if as people have said, if you don't learn from history, it has a tendency to repeat itself. And yeah, so on the album, I suppose there's two main strands: is really being inspired by natural places. I love to go to different landscapes and just be inspired by the beauty of places. But the band I had before I was until 2016, from 1989, was called Iona, after the small Scottish island off the west coast of Scotland. But we were inspired by that place, but also another island called Lindisfarne, which is slightly closer to where I used to live and grew up, in the northeast of England. But again, it's an island just off the coast, a really beautiful place. So I like going to those places and trying to absorb the atmosphere. And both of those places have deep spiritual connections as well. There's Iona and Lindisfarne, there's been a Christian presence for like 1,500 years. So you kind of go there, and they've been described as thin places where the veil between heaven and earth is feels just like it's thin because of the beauty
Mm,
and just the whole history of the places. So that's one thing. And then just being inspired by stories of some of the Celtic saints
yeah.
of long ago, and just trying to think about how they lived and how much in communion with nature they were. Just a kind of simpler existence in a way, but seeing the spiritual in the natural world, I suppose, something that it's easy to kind of just forget about.
Yeah, I think your music has that spiritual beauty and connection. So like it could be something like, where the mist rolls in on the hills, and that
Yeah,
kind of vibe, right? And
yeah,
and which we've been through and traveled all through Scotland and Wales and England and as a kid. And to me, I was just enthralled by this. This was different for me because I was raised in Kenya at that time, at that point, and going from Africa to England. And yet at the same time, this was weird. As a little kid, I'm going, well, this is tribal as all heck. This is tribal. And it didn't sound like it to adults. They're like, I beg your pardon. And I'm
yeah,
like, well, no, there's like a tribal energy that I could connect the two areas. I mean, these are two different places, opposite. And it just had that wild, there's a wilderness side. And like when you stand on the edge of the ocean, like on the islands and stuff, there's such a ruggedness. Like, so Oregon, where we are today, Oregon has a very rugged coastline.
Yeah,
Washington State,
yeah,
Pacific Northwest and Maine in this country, which I haven't done yet, but I
yeah.
can
I
talk
was,
about the
I was in
Pacific.
Maine. I was
Have
in
you done
Maine.
it?
Yeah, just over a week ago. Yeah,
It's rugged, right?
yeah,
That's got that same feel. So I know when people historically from England came here, they're like, oh yeah, this kind of feels normal, but it's not 100% the same. So it has that same feeling, but there's a tribal energy that I don't think sounds weird. I don't think spirits ever die. It's not necessarily ghosts or whatever. And I think that musicians and artists have a sensitivity to be able to pick that up and feel it and then carry it on. Do you feel
yeah,
that with your music? Like you can feel the energy
yeah.
from the past that way?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that about a lot of music from Ireland and Scotland. I remember there was a series on TV back in the 1990s that I was watching about different music traditions. And it had this film, all black and white film from, I think it must have been early 1950s. And there was this really old guy playing this beautiful air, which is a kind of slow, sad tune on the
Hmm.
accordion, just in this small village somewhere in Ireland. And all the people, there was just people all around him gathered around, just transfixed by this tune and really, really listening to it. And it was just so magical and beautiful and spiritual as well. And I think like some of those tunes, when you listen to traditional folk tunes from, well, Britain, Ireland, Scotland, they go back hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think it's almost like there's that DNA kind of carries on throughout music. Even bands like Clannad, who I used to love, and then bands like U2. There's something in that music that I think has a DNA that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years that makes you connect with it in a deep way. It's not just it's hard to describe. I think Pat Metheny had a phrase for it. He's described it as the cracks in between the music, and musicians are able to kind of reveal those bits in between the music. That for me, it's like the whole spiritual side of the human, and music can connect you to that in a way that other art forms can't. So yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's like nature, right? So where people may be divided on spiritual beliefs or religion, right? So we all have a
yeah,
different belief system, but spirituality is at the core of existence, no matter how we look at it. If you look at nature and the beauty of nature and have that feel, right? So to
yeah,
me, that's spirituality. So
yeah,
everyone email me and argue. I don't care. It's
yeah,
about a common connection. That to me is
yeah,
spirituality
yeah.
too. And
That's
so
that's kind
music
of
does
what
it.
yeah, and that's what I kind of strive for in the music that I'm writing. Does it really connect in that deep way? If I feel the connection when I'm writing it, then that's all I can do really, and I hope that other people who listen to it will hear that connection.
Well, you also play with different, projects and, shows and different things. So you tend to not, from what I can tell, pigeonhole yourself. We're the big blend. And it's our, like, they say, oh, you shouldn't be variety. You're supposed to only do one thing. And we're like, no, because everything is connected. Everything in
Yeah,
life is connected. And so we fought this. It doesn't make us as profitable, but it's about being honest. And so do you feel that way with your music about not, I mean, you do a lot of Celtic side, especially, with Sally, just this beautiful part of that. And then the prog rock, I think you're showing that you can do all things.
yeah. I remember having a conversation on the plane with Jack Bruce actually, and I made the mistake of referring. We were talking about blues and about folk music, and I kind of not really intentionally, but put them in different categories. And Jack said, "No, no, no, no. Blues music is folk music. It's music of the people." I think really, I mean, I grew up listening to lots of blues albums, and it was not so much the style or the notes, but the feeling that comes through the music. So that's the thing that's always struck me about any music, whether it's classical music or folk. If it strikes a chord emotionally with me, then I'm going to like it. And yeah, so I've played lots of different styles. In fact, I did some gigs with Malcolm Bruce last year.
No way.
Yeah, with Sons of
Awesome.
Cream guesting on keyboards. So that was quite good fun.
That's awesome. Isn't it interesting to see these second generations come through on these
Yeah,
musicians, and they have their own take, their own thing, and moving forward in a completely different way, but still honoring their
yeah.
ancestral roots in a way that is amazing. I'm watching it with Lucas Nelson and Willie Nelson's son, Micah Nelson, the Particle Kid and Shooter Jennings,
Mm.
you know, on the country music side, or not even, they don't even want to be labeled that way. See, that's the thing. Who wants to be like, do you want to have a label of like, that's it. You're always going to do Celtic music and that's that. You know, nobody
No.
wants that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't like any labels really. In fact, the band I also play with, Life Signs, John Poole, the bass player, who also plays bass on my album, amazing musician. He put some letters on his bass that says "Destroy all genres," and I think he's of the same mind, really, that music shouldn't be pigeonholed, but you do what you feel, and that's how it comes out.
Mm,
So, I mean, there's elements of different strands of music in what I do. But,
yeah.
whether if it can hold together. I mean, as a whole piece and take you on a journey from one point to another. I think that's the most important thing.
I think it's hard to always have something of change. So people want to go to a familiarity. So they know your music, you know, and they'll go there and they go, oh, well, it'll surprise here. And oh, I didn't know I liked this, which
Yeah,
is to me the excitement. I hear new music. I'm like all ears. Like it's like food to me. It's like going to a restaurant of your favorite chef, you know, gives you some new creation that you are just like excited to have.
yeah,
And that's how I look at it. It's like music is a fuel and it's this, you know, so new music, it's so weird because I feel like we get in a rut of always wanting hearing the same, you know, and that's what radio has done. In essence, an indie radio station is just playing the same songs from, you know, and now my era is now classic rock. Thank you so much, everybody. Feels wonderful. Um,
it
you
can be
know,
very frustrating. And I think I remember growing up as a teenager, I was listening to lots of bands and people like Genesis and Yes, and so this is like 50 years later, and occasionally I go and see Yes because I know Jeff Downes quite well, and they'll play to packed theatres, and Steve Hackett as well, from who was in Genesis, will play a set of Genesis music, and the theatres will be packed out. And yet, new music doesn't attract the same audience. And I think part of it is that when you're a teenager, you're going through such an intense time, and the music of that time is kind of bound up in the way you're feeling and that
mm.
period in your life. So it's always going to be much more significant than maybe something newer.
Yeah, that's weird because we have all these tribute bands now that it's like
Yeah,
tribute
yeah,
bands are like going. I mean, we did a show about this with some other musicians about a month or two ago, and they were like, as new artists, they're not a new band. They're out of Florida, the Cravens, and they're like now having to. It's like competition, and it
mhm,
shouldn't be because to me, musicians are always a community. Like you can move to a new town and as a musician, if you want a family, you'll find one instantly.
yeah,
Just go find the
yeah,
musicians. And it's
yeah,
that, but then in like South Florida or different cities like that, it's become the tribute bands are like the biggest competitor. The outlets or the, venues know that people will come for that. Exactly what you're saying. It's that nostalgia
yeah,
thing. But then we need to do new and keep ourselves stimulated by
yeah,
newness. Otherwise we're staying in the past. And I think it's great to honor the past and still listen to it, but it's kind of
yeah.
interesting what's happening right now.
Yes, it can be hard to attract an audience to about a gig of completely new music. Yeah, I mean, with Sally, we've been touring together for 10 years, and gradually we're getting known as a duo, playing music that we've come up with ourselves, or that was from my band Iona, but or from my solo albums. But it's taken a while to build an audience. Lots of touring and stuff.
But I mean, your backbone is number one, the music is fantastic. Number two, both of you. I mean, the backbone of your music legacy is huge from both of you. I mean, you look at Pendragon and Lord of the Dance, Celestial Fire for Sally. And then, I mean, everything you've done and all the people like the Straubs and the people you've performed with, it's like, wow. And the fact that you keep progressing into different projects and different, obviously different solo albums. This is the fifth. And then you bring all these amazing musicians to collaborate with the right things that you envision. I just think it's exciting. This is cool, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then doing something that can help move us all forward. That's the other part, or feel good. And, what on the song, on the album, obviously on the edge of what could be, make sure I say that on the edge, I like hanging out on the edge because you never know. There's a gray area in between. And are we scared to touch our toes in it?
Yes. Yes.
Is that your favorite? Why did you decide that song is going to be the title track? Did you start with that? How does that happen on an album? And how do you decide, like, okay, I'm going to have two, or just make it one big long one? How do those decisions come about?
Yeah, the title came from it was actually something I was watching on YouTube, a talk, and I actually can't remember the context now, but this phrase "on the edge of what could be" came up, and I just thought that was really interesting, and opened up lots of possible interpretations. So I kind of tried to write, well, some lyrics on that theme, then
Mm.
also um, base of the tracks on that theme as well.
Yeah, because that's also like it's exciting and then scary at the same time. It's like all the
Yeah.
feels are in there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also it was partly. Well, it was an amazing thing. The opening words, "I am here, I am here," read the note within the tome, a voice from the past breaking through into the now, to comfort those who mourn for the passing of our kin. By reaching through the veil to our spirit deep within, was actually my uncle died about 3 years ago,
Mm.
and very suddenly. And my auntie, she was really distraught. But my sister and my auntie were about the same age, although my sister died of a brain hemorrhage when she was quite young. So just after my uncle passed away and my auntie was really grieving, and she was missing my sister as well because they were best friends. I was just clearing out some books to take to a charity shop because I had far too many books. And this note just fell out of one of the books. And it was a note from my sister that she'd written maybe 40 years ago. And
Wow.
it just said on it, "I am here, your loving sister Mo." And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember that she wrote this, I think, when I was at home in my music room and she'd come around to visit and just left a note. But then, it just suddenly turned up 40 years later at exactly the right time. So I shared this with my auntie, and, which was greatly comforting. So there's that sort of area of in the Bible, there's something about the communion of saints, where it talks about the people who've gone before, and really there's not the veil between the two. The heavenly realm and the earthly realm isn't actually that big, and it really felt, when I read this note, that we were quite deeply connected. So yeah, I wanted to have that as the opening verse of this song.
Means a lot.
Yes, yes, yeah.
It,
But
it,
yeah,
yeah.
the song goes on to talk about the connections with historical sites and places where saints have gone before, hundreds and thousands of years before, and sort of listening to the landscape and kind of trying to be in tune with that.
It's interesting about the saints, how they,
Mm.
and I look at the saints and then Hinduism with the icons, right? It's kind of similar and
Yeah, yeah,
similar and different. And then everyone's going to yell at me for that. But it's because we need to have a tangible thing as
yeah,
humans, the
yeah,
species that we are now. But at the same time, we're learning because that's what faith is, right? Is to not see it. So like when we had COVID, remember how they were going, well, people aren't believing about COVID because they need to see it. So we had to have the diagram of what COVID looks like under a microscope. And
mm,
so that's kind of how I feel like all of this is. It's like, okay, if we can't see it as tangible, we don't believe it. But we know deep down, we can
mm,
feel it. And it's whether or not we want to open up or no. And everyone's belief system, religious, oh, I want to go this way or that way. it's all connected and it's about life. And so it's interesting when these things happen. I have a friend who lost her cat, and we're close with the cat, and she just went outside and suddenly his collar was right there. I mean, he disappeared, and we know pretty much know a coyote probably got him. And she went outside and his collar is like right there on the back patio. Like, boom, here I am. I'm right here where he would be.
Yeah.
It was weird. And there's no one who would have put it there. There's no explanation. It's like, you know, when you find pennies where there were no pennies before,
Yes. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that letter with your sister is like kind of one of those things where that's kind of wild, man. That's wild. That's
Yeah.
a, that's a, and we tend to get it and honor it. And then there's a side of us will also push that away. Like, I don't want to believe that, you know? So
Mm.
I love that you're bringing this out for people
Yeah.
to just wonder about it at least. Don't just shove it aside. You know,
Yeah.
shoving aside, we're very good at as humans, and that causes trauma at the end of
Yeah.
the day. So I love that.
Yeah, there's been a photo, you've probably seen it on Facebook at some point, that was taken by Voyager before it left the solar system. And it was Carl Sagan had requested that the camera be turned round to take a last picture of Earth before Voyager got too far away. And so there's this amazing photo, and you can see Earth as a really, really tiny dot, you know, in the distance, in the vastness of space. The lyrics on the chorus of "On the Edge," standing on the edge of what could be wonder makes us fall down to our knees. The idea being that the vastness of everything is just so incredible, and the vastness of nature is so amazing that really, if we could only take that in, why would there be any need for wars or anything like that? Because we've got
Mm.
such beauty around us, and it's our only home, and it's so fragile. The photo on the cover of the album, I saw this about maybe a year or so ago. There were in England, there were lots of Northern Lights sightings over the British Isles, much more than kind of for years and years. And this photographer, Gareth Ray, took this amazing photo in Ireland, and you can see the aurora kind of coming down in these beams of light, and this tiny person looking up towards where all the light's coming from. And it just was a real picture of a sense of awe of nature. And so that's kind of what my thinking was in the title lyrics to the title track.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. When you're writing the lyrics, do you feel in awe? Like, do you know, like, this is because there's a thing of make it rhyme, stay in this.
Yes.
I mean, are there times where you just go, screw the rules? This
Yeah.
needs to be here. It wants to be, and it needs to be.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can't be too strict about rhyming things, but so yeah, it's just trying to get something that connects with what you're trying to convey, I suppose.
Do you write the music or the lyrics first, or do they just do whatever they need to do at the time?
So actually, on quite often, and this album is a case in point. I mainly came up with the titles for the tracks at first. I tend to come up or write down different lines that I quite like or seem to be quite interesting, whether I hear them in a film, a line from a film, dialogue, or from a book I'm reading, because I do read a lot. And then, so I'll get a list of titles and then really try and write the music based on the title. And then usually the lyrics come after that. But sometimes the lyrics, or at least the story for the lyrics, is there from the beginning. So, but yeah, it's
Mm.
quite an unusual thing to come up with a title first, I suppose. But that's for me. That really helps me to have a focus for each track.
Well, there's some of the song titles I cannot pronounce. There's, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
Gaelic ones.
yeah, that's not happening yet. But
Yeah.
the thing too, I mean, when you write now, so because you're bringing all these amazing musicians in with you, were you very set in your way of this is how it needs to be, or did you have them also collaborate and go, oh, this feels better to play it this way? How was that part in this process of making this album?
Yeah, so well, because I know all the musicians who are on the album, I was very familiar with their style and way of playing or singing. So I'll usually do demos, but then basically let people come up with their own parts, at least as far as the instrumental bits and that. Although I mean there are set tunes and everything, and with some of the vocals, actually scored out the lines, so the singers actually learnt those. But then, as far as interpreting the how to sing it, then I left that up to the singers.
Wow.
Yeah, but with Simon, because we did the drums pretty early on in the albums. I had some basic demos, and I had some drum parts that I'd programmed. So I asked him whether he wanted to hear those or not. But he did. I think he wanted to hear what my idea was for each track, and then he would kind of. I know he spent a lot of time before we got together in the studio, listening to the tracks and coming up with ideas and that. And then we were in the studio for 5 days together, just working on things and just swapping ideas really. But usually with the caliber of musicians on the album, they invariably come up with things that you'd never think of as a. I'm not a drummer, but I know Simon has an incredible imagination. So some of the things he was playing were fantastic. But also he's a producer as well, an arranger. So he has a good idea of how to construct a drum track to have the maximum impact, and which bits should be louder and which bits should be quieter or half time or whatever.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really
Yeah,
is. I
yeah.
mean,
And
it's
then
oh,
yeah, he's got a unique sound, and it's been the same really since. I mean, one of my favorite albums was "There and Back" by Jeff Beck,
mm,
and Simon's drumming on that is just phenomenal. That came out in 1980,
yeah.
and yeah, he's always had a sound and a particular kit setup where he uses lots of tom toms, but not for the sake of just playing very long fills, but just constructing rhythms that are really interesting and unique.
I think if you want to go to music school, just go, under tutelage of Jeff Beck. I mean, he brought up so many musicians, not necessarily Simon, but he drove you to go beyond. Like, don't just try and be your best. You got to go with that force. He was like a force of nature, Jeff Beck.
Yeah,
There's just
yeah,
no one like, I know that, Simon played with Gary Moore too, and I thought Gary Moore was the same way. And there's just certain musicians that Rory Gallagher too, out of guitarists. Like Rory Gallagher to me is in a way underrated in this world because he left us so soon, but he did so much for musicians, especially in Ireland, and it was a force of nature. Like this is like, holy cow. It's not even in existence. Like it's out of your body experience. And
yeah.
I think Jeff Beck was like that and then the people that surrounded him
Mm,
and, as a players and even as proteges, like Tal Wickenfeld and just how
mm,
they really blossom because of that. And because he left a space. And that's something in creating an album that leaving that space that you were talking about is so crucial. I think if you're getting
yeah.
people to be part of a creative experience and then you can't not let them blossom.
Yes, yeah. I mean that's exactly the case with John Poole on bass on this. We've played together in the band Life Signs since 2017. Whenever I hear him playing, he's such an incredible musician. You don't need to give him any direction. He's played on my last two solo albums, and I'll send him the tracks, and I know that immediately he'll know what to do. Which will be exactly the right thing. And it's great when you've got that confidence in musicians. And also, I hate having to edit musicians as well because I think if that's starting to happen, then I've probably chosen the wrong person for the job.
My God. And now people can use AI to do it, which sucks.
Oh, no.
It's the same as
Yeah,
podcasts, like
yeah,
AI this. I've tried it and now I'm going, that really sucks. We were just having this conversation this morning of like, okay, there's tools, there's some stuff that can help you, and then some that just, we want a real conversation, and yeah, so
yes.
music is about our heart
Yes,
state.
I think if like a good producer or band leader will try and get the best out of their musicians and let them bring their own unique voice to a project. And
Mm.
that's what I always try and do on my albums. And I think musicians appreciate that space and freedom. I think if you give them that.
I think your new album is part of that. So everyone, again, you can go to myshopify.com to get it in the States. The link is in the episode notes. Also go to Dave's website, which is davebainbridgemusic.com. That is also linked in the episode notes, as well as that YouTube feature that really shows the album in its entirety. It's like a 7-minute overview of this 2 CD experience, which is beautiful. And I want music videos from this because it just looks, some of it just,
Yes, that's
please do that.
we've got a lot more footage that we shot both on location and well, 2 of the days in the studio with Simon, we had a film crew filming from about 4 different angles. So there are going to be more videos. I've just been so busy touring with various things in the last few months. Yeah, I think in November I'm going to be working on more videos for.
Oh, cool. Keep us posted. And everyone, the links are in the episode notes again. But I did want to bring out too that right now, in about a month or so, you'll be able to get the album streaming again. You can get it where I was talking about. Before we go on this, and I want to tell people that you're coming over to the States too. I wanted to say, I know that you did a lot of the album was through Patreon. How did that work out for you guys doing that?
Yeah, Patreon's been fantastic.
Really? Awesome.
I started a Patreon page about 3.5 years ago, exactly 3.5 years ago now. And I'd been thinking about doing it for a while. And my friend, who's a great guitarist called Paul Bilitovich, had been on Patreon for a few years and just developed this amazing community of people who love his music. And he would be interacting with them every day and doing videos and keeping people up to date on what he was doing. But in exchange for a subscription at different levels, they could support him. So basically, during the pandemic, when all his touring, he was touring with Carl Palmer, that completely stopped. So the only income he had during the pandemic was from Patreon. And it basically helped him to survive as a musician. But also, interestingly, he'd previously not really been a composer, but with Patreon during the pandemic, it gave him space and kind of the motivation to write more of his own music. So Patreon basically was responsible for him also becoming a more accomplished composer over the last few years. And for me, it's just become increasingly hard to fund new music because a lot of the record companies just don't exist anymore that funded.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's not the ones that you want either.
Yeah.
Some of them, you know.
So yeah, I thought so in February, end of February, beginning of March, 3 years ago, I started the Patreon community and it's just been brilliant. Basically, for the first time in my life, I've got a monthly income from that. So
That's
and
great.
that helps to cover, just like some of the basic things. And with the new album, we did a Patreon, or it's about to come out, a Patreon only version, which has an extra booklet with pictures of all the patrons who contributed to it. So we did like a pre-order. So money that came in from that has helped to fund the recording of the album. And in exchange for a bonus disc and lots of other art cards and a signed certificate and stuff.
But that stuff is what us music geeks love, right?
Yeah.
I know you're going to be streaming this in about a month or so, so everybody watch for that. But and go to davebainbridgemusic.com and all that good stuff to keep up, and social media and everything is linked there. But it's so back in the day with albums and being able to read the notes and see the art and that experience of just listening to the whole album and looking like you would read the album art during listening to it. It was like all this thing. And now we're just getting dings on our phone, just listening to a single. And I get the single thing, but it's just, I think what you've done is create art, like an artistic masterpiece that people can have all these parts of. And so many people are connected with it, and that's a beautiful thing. So I love that, community support, and I love that.
Yeah, so with the album, I've been able to take my patrons through the whole process from demos, coming up with the initial tracks and playing different demos. And so they've followed the whole progress of the making of the album, which has been brilliant, really. And
Yeah.
so when I first got the finished mixes as well. We had a couple of listening sessions on video on Zoom with patrons, and that was quite special. Getting feedback in real time for the first time that people had heard the finished tracks.
Wow. That's awesome. Being able to do those, at least you had video, right? Today we don't have video because of
Yeah,
technical stuff going on in the geek
yeah,
world of internet and electricity. I can't explain all that, but it's a pity we're not video. I wish we were, but
yeah,
the joy of that, what technology has provided. I mean, if we were still in the 80s or 90s,
mm,
and the way record album company, record companies are. I can list maybe one hand of labels that I would recommend to musicians on like five, if that.
mm,
Their musicians come on our shows all the time. I'm like, they're a good album. The musicians are happy, then this is good. That's the first thing. Are the musicians happy? Good. Okay, they're a good company then. But it's a really weird thing. And so the internet is just this weird double-edged sword of great for
yeah,
musicians, the technology of communication and connection without anybody telling you what to do is fantastic. And having complete license and control of your art is fantastic. Then you have the sea of musicians to get past, to get people to see you and know about you. I think it's great to have artistic control, honestly. It's harder,
yeah.
but if you have a community behind you, that is the most beautiful thing. And I think it keeps everyone in balance in a way.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot, well, a lot of my patrons, regularly come to gigs and become good friends now. In fact, we did a Dave and Sally tour over the summer in England, and several times we stayed at patrons' houses
Oh, wow. Wow. That's
hotels
so cool.
rather than hotels, and it was brilliant.
That's
So
immersive. That's a beautiful way to
yeah,
live. I mean, that's how we travel the country. We pet sit and take care of pets, which we love as we work. And I mean, it's not a money making thing. It's so much nicer to be in a home. It's
yes,
just a warm feeling. You can have a real meal, if somebody else cooks, not me. And it's just it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love this. Now, I want people to know that you're coming back to the States and,
yeah.
yeah,
Actually, live in
you and Sally will be here, right?
yes, yeah. So I actually live in Baltimore now. Yeah, my wife Sharon is from Baltimore. So yeah, over the past 7 years, I've been based in Baltimore, and got my green card 3 years ago. So in but next month, Sally's coming over, and we'll be playing at Progstock Festival in Rutherford, New Jersey. I think it's about the 11th or 12th of October. So we're doing our duo set, but we're also playing with Mike Keneally, fantastic guitarist and singer and keyboard player who was in Frank Zappa's band
Yeah.
for a while. So we're going to be playing some songs with him, and then going
Awesome.
on to a tour together for 5 gigs after that, around the northeast-ish of US.
Enjoy the tour. I love this. So everyone again, DaveBainbridgeMusic.com is the site and keep up with him there. And then I know you'll alert people when they can get it on the streaming places. And in the meantime, you can get the album, and that's really a cool way of doing it too. So thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun chatting. Great. Yeah, thanks, Lisa.